Oops, sorry. My hair. It's all like I just got out of the studio, ain't it? Well, we're gonna see if anybody here now shows up for the show tonight. Well, what's up with my connection, man? Well, dang it. Hello, everyone. That was quick. Let me update my things, because I'm getting better at doing the thing. Give you a quick outline of the show. Everybody who's out there. Boop, 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 boop. It's what we're going to talk about tonight. Hello, everyone! Good to see you all once again. Not see you, per se, but do the show. And I was a little bit cut short the other night, and I apologize for that. Real life does that sometimes. So it is what it is. Yes. Alright, sorry, I'm trying to check my notes real quick as we build up everything and get this ready to start tonight. I'm going to make some noise. This is, of course, our little show, Escaping Dystopia. I've got more of the website. I haven't quite caught all the way up, and after tonight's show, I'll probably do the rest. So the website, escapingdystopia.com, is there and is live and working. So that's cool. I like that it's going there, and that'll help build on the stuff going over to time, and then I can refer back to previous episodes, and it'll be easy and all linked together and fun. So the first thing I wanted to talk about tonight is international politics. It's always been international politics has always been a fun thing for me. I don't know why, just because you need to know about stuff. Now, I don't know why. My website, robotpirateninja.com, international politics and video games was the point of it. So I've always had this interest in this. And so one of the things that's fun about this is you get to kind of understand how things are happening and then look at the world and be like, oh, okay, that all makes sense now. So the thing that we're going to talk about there tonight is the South China Sea. For those of you unfamiliar with it, and this is the fun part here, so the little background here, there's a little bit, this is a dispute, this is a real actual issue, and this is, the context here, of course, is Trump and everybody else talking about, we had our drone, right, our little underwater drone that got stolen. They took our drone. I love drones. I have a lot of them. Mine fly in the air. I don't have any underwater ones. But when I get some, I'm going to not use them in the South China Sea. Because South China Sea is a disputed waterway. Here, let me see if you can see this. Can you guys see this? Oh, that works all right. See that? South China Sea. So that is the South China Sea. That's China. And there's a whole bunch of countries around there. So the dispute part here is a lot of these other countries all think that they own part of the South China Sea. And this other country, China, right, the one that's like in the name, is now saying, well, no, I think we own the South China Sea. And this is why China actually has a history of doing stuff like this, as opposed to being unprecedented. So confusing what those letters and words mean. China actually always tests presidents during its time. And so the idea here now is to kind of... So the one China policy is fundamental to China's notion of itself. When you're talking to Taiwan, because Taiwan's not doesn't want to be an independent state. Taiwan actually has this notion that Taiwan actually controls all of China. So when you're talking to the Taiwanese government, you're actually talking to the Republic, ROC, the Republic of China. That's their initials for Taiwan, not the People's Republic of China. So again, folks, this is international politics. This is really interesting. This is why stepping into that whole one China thing is such a kind of a big deal, because now China is turning around and kind of being like, no, when we talk about China, we talk about one China includes that South China Sea now. It's not that they're going to put on one China and Taiwan on the table as a trade negotiation or something like that, but more as like, oh, you think the Confederates won the Civil War, do you? Oh, well, shall we say, Now, the other part that's fun about this, too, and again, we'll go to the map, because the map, you look at that and you see where the little dot is, and I know it's kind of silly, but that's all, you're like, oh, that's a lot of ocean, right? It's all just water in there. But the thing is, there's actually some islands and some little atolls, and these are the places that now China has confirmed that they built their military installations. And their, as they called it, a slingshot to defend their territory. And so there's that whole adage, and this is an old good one, you know, that thing you learn with don't get in a fight with Sicilians when death is on the line, and land wars in Asia. So one of the things that they've been building here in the sea in Asia is islands to make it land. So they now have land. So if there was a war and we fight over the South China Sea, and I don't know if you've noticed, but you know, you look at where the dot is here on the map, and it kind of looks fairly important for waterways and transport and trade. That's the South China Sea. That's what China is saying is ours now. So they took the drone. We were going to get the drone back. Then the latest, the absolute latest, is that Trump's like, we don't even want the drone. So we'll see what happens with the drone and that. That's kind of this ongoing thing. We'll follow this. This is, you know, watching again, the point of the website, escapingdystopia.com, is to avoid an apocalypse. So these kind of international incidents are right along our lines, where we're going to follow these as they develop and see what happens and see what our reaction is going to be. The other one that happened too this week that got a lot less attention was Iran and their decision to build a nuclear-powered navy. We have, as signatories of the Nuclear Arms Control Treaty, the name escapes me for the moment, the right to do domestic nuclear power. So they're going to now enforce their right to do that. I'll have to see. I think it might be a direct violation of the treaty that we signed with 6 other nations. Remember, it's not just us. And so this division is something that everybody's going to try and exploit now in the moment. Now, speaking of division and the moment, and tomorrow is electors. What are they going to do? What are they going to do? What are they going to do? I don't know, man. Does anybody think they're actually going to not endorse? The problem with that is just, you know, when you just like flat out say, okay, the guy who got the most votes and should win is not going to be president because we've decided no. And that, I think, is part of the Constitution. I think that's kind of the idea, but it's been, I don't know, 150 years since we've really talked about it. So we'll see tomorrow. I guess there's supposed to be like 20 electors or so that Lawrence Lessig has talked to. He, of the Creative Commons fame, has been working. He actually ran for president, too. I don't know if everybody saw that. It was very short on the Democratic side and got no traction whatsoever. But Lawrence Lessig has been out there, pardon, I'm going to spit all over you, has been out there trying to get electors. And so there's been a lot. I don't know if you've seen the celebrity, be an elector, be a good elector, don't elect Donald Trump. Yeah, right. So it's is it top 3 vote getters? I thought like they had to be somebody who there's all sorts of technicalities here, and at this point, who knows? One of the issues, though, with kind of that who knows what the hell's going on here, though, is the whole Supreme Court thing, right? Because we elected Obama twice, big numbers, no question, and he was supposed to be able to appoint a Supreme Court justice, but didn't, or couldn't, so that was odd. But so I don't know if they're gonna say no, and even if they do, who else would they pick? I mean, Hillary, of course, is a possibility, but you're not going to have the Republican House of Representatives pick Hillary. So, Evan McMullen, no, like Kasich. It would be, and we've talked about this in this household a couple times, in Fantasyland. But, I think the Republicans are going to settle on Paul Ryan pretty much every time at this point. So, I think there's a possibility of that happening, but I don't know that it's really going to happen. Even with all the stuff I'm going to talk about in a minute, I just don't think it's going to happen. Yeah, because I thought they had to get an elector to have a chance. Haven't really looked in the details of this, so somebody else will have to be your specialist on what's possible for tomorrow. But I don't see much. I don't see it happening that way. I don't really see the Republicans doing much to stop him, and it would take quite a number of electors and Republicans to stand up against him. Now, this is kind of the dangerous part, and I don't know, I've seen a few of my conversations with people about what's coming to the U.S. With who we've elected. There's a couple kind of dangerous things that like going after the press stuff is bad. The thing, and if you look into this, and I'll have a link for it on the website and all that, but Kurt Eichenwald, he's a journalist who's been writing some, of course, things, and he suffers from epilepsy, and so somebody's been sending Twitter messages to try and make him have a seizure, and it worked. There's been nasty stuff sent to a lot of journalists, and that's not horribly uncommon, but I think the emboldenedness of going after the press now. There's another thing that's going on nationwide, and I don't know if you guys have seen stories on this, but there are in various cities and stuff, like kind of like artistic, crash pads or, open spaces and free, things like that. I guess a list of these got out to one of the alt-right websites, so now they're calling all the fire codes and fire stations everywhere and having them go check it out and shut down these things and kicking people out. It happened here in Denver. I know it happened down in Fort Worth, in Dallas. And that's the kind of law enforcement harassment and things that you're going to get. And then, when you get more of those, and then it's going to be a list of, here's the list of 2 million people who aren't supposed to be in this country, or things like that. So, all these lists are out there, and this is what really is the dangerous part for that coming up. And this is why I think the fake news thing is so scary, because how are people going to know that this is actually happening? So I'm going to go ahead and move into the main portion of the show. I want to make sure that I wrote this. Oh, one other thing real quick I wanted to talk about on the South China Sea stuff. Gotcha. There it is. It's right there. I was going to talk about it. But about the South China Sea, I don't know if you know, but the people who are part of the TPP, you remember that? You remember that thing that died that Obama negotiated, Obama's soft power thing? Like some of the countries, Colombia, the Philippines, Thailand, Taiwan, South Korea, Indonesia, all those countries on the border of the South China Sea and the Pacific. Oops. So that was kind of that was how our soft power works under Obama. And to make no mistake, Obama ordered a lot of people killed. Our military is active constantly around the world, and so this new guy will be doing that to some degree or another. It's gonna has to happen. It's part of it. The dangerous part, again, going back to what I was going to talk about, is this lack, and I wrote about the death of the press conference. Through the transition of both Obama and George W. Bush, and remember even Bush had a really odd transition, right? Because of all the lawsuits in the Supreme Court. Can you guys? You can't see that. If you were a real person, you'd be like, "Why did you just spit on me?" The Supreme Court's decision to install the loser of the popular vote. But even then, their transition was pretty smooth, and they had a lot of press conferences. You had a guy coming in explaining his governing philosophy is, oh, well, this is how the executive branch is going to work now. With Obama, you had the change coming in, and both of them, through this time period, had double-digit numbers of press conferences where they would stand up and answer questions, right? I mean, even to the degree that I'm doing this with the people who read my news feed or whatever, like answering a live question and you know, you guys aren't trained journalists, are you, out there? But those kind of questions are a little harder, and that demonstrating that you're not a complete and utter buffoon who just fooled everyone is why you do press conferences, and he hasn't. I don't think he's ever going to be frightfully clear. He'll do like the interviews and the Fox stuff and things like that, but I don't know that we're ever going to see a press conference with this president, which leads to like a weird state of the U.S. And again, this is like what the heck's going on? Like, he had, moving into this whole thing, he had in Florida, and I did this the Trevor Noah link on it about the Daily Show with them draining the swamp and how he just made up, you know, somebody suggested that term. So I was like, oh, I'll give it a shot. Why not? We'll just throw this out there. Drain the swamp. Like, what do you... And he's like, this is so stupid. And then they bought it, and then he just kept doing it. And the lock her up, same kind of thing starting from that. And these things had nothing to do with policy. They were all about the crowd and working that. And that was the whole thing. And so we have that going on. And now he's doing the victory tour and going and talking to these same people. And then being like, no, you know, it's not true. I just, you know, said it. And he's saying this to them. And it's just very weird. So a lot of these people, too, and I've been talking to a number of them, online up here and around, and so again, you see the same thing. There was the Jefferson County up here had their Tea Party picture, and of course it was quite silvery gray. So many people who are really hardcore behind this are just not going to be in the job market again. These people are retired, and so a big part of what he's trying to sell for Make America Great Again is about like jobs and doing this. And the thing is, we are at like essentially full employment right now. And this is why you saw the Fed raising rates, and they will continue to raise rates because we, you know, they have a dual mandate at the Fed to have low unemployment and low inflation. And inflation's been low for a long time when we've had these low interest rates, and now employment's all the way down. So now they're going to start raising some interest rates. So we have full employment. So there's this weird thing where America's totally unemployed and everybody's out of work and all that, but it's actually not, and they actually aren't. So how's that going to make sense? And so the same people who don't believe the BLS now, the Bureau of Labor Statistics, which comes out there with the unemployment rate, are not going to believe it if it goes now the other way and things don't go well. And P.T. Barnum's been blown to hell. I mean, historically, you're going to see there's no question on the historic nature of this whole thing. It's just such a... I mean, it's hilarious. I mean, this is kind of like the idea now. So, I mean, we can laugh about it, but let's try and make something. Let's try and avoid the complete disaster. But, you know, I don't know what these people will believe, because they're not going to believe the Bureau of Labor Statistics if, you know, unemployment starts to go up because we have a trade war and then the stuff happens. This is why in 28 you had the stock market doing well all through 28, and then you had the crash coming in 29 once the third quarter came in and they had to report all the earnings. I don't know if you guys have seen some of my discussions with like John and all that, but I've had some other these a few other places, and it's difficult even at this point. We'll see what happens to have a rational, fact-based discussion with people who are especially hardcore Trump supporters. And this is, let me take a sip real quick. So after finally getting John to calm down and tell me what, actually counted as making America great again, we had those two metrics. Sneaky little girl. No. Like the first one was that a very distinguished cabinet with military, foreign policy, and business experience. And we just had that, right? And now they're all being replaced with people who don't have this experience. And then metric 3, creating jobs, saving businesses. And it's like, well, we just had this huge economic recession recovery. So again, this is somebody who is extremely negative on Obama, extremely positive on Trump, but doesn't admit to the reality of the situation. So how much that reality matters for a lot of these folks is going to be really interesting. And how to communicate to them going forward. I think the corruption thing is the biggest one. This was just like amazing because he was going to come out and be like, oh yeah, I'm going to explain how I'm not doing my businesses and why this corruption thing isn't a problem. And then he just canceled it, just flat canceled it, and had the whole, well, my kids are going to do it and all that. And then the meeting with, and this was great, there's a business insider, there's somebody who's like, oh man, guys, did you even see this? And then they have the meeting, and then all the kids, his kids are in the meeting with all the internet moguls and billionaires, the kids who are going to run his companies. And it's like, all right, well, that's corruption. The emoluments thing is the big question for that. And the hotel that he's got in D.C. And so I do think as far as what, like, this is for those people thinking the electors are going to be the ones who take him down, I don't think so. I think it's going to be the corruption stuff, because they have to either say it's okay or investigate it, and then it'll be, because there's just too many overall, just flat out, just no way is that going to work. So I think people who want to resist per se, I think focusing on the corruption is the best thing to do to try and stop them. What's odd too, and this is segueing on to my next issue, I've got a couple kids and they're awesome. I love the whole experience. Highly recommended to escape this dystopia, to move towards a better and greater future. We have to have children and invest in them and have future generations. And I see people being so, and this goes to a little bit of the Michelle Obama hopeless quote and discussion around that, and people saying like, oh, I don't even want to have kids because things are so downtrodden, and I don't think we can give in to idiocracy, and I hope people will fight against that and keep on fucking and having babies and things, because especially good people who want to, and I know it's just so kind of a little bit melodramatic on that, and there's another thing too, and this is about the American dream kind of being dead, and this also just destroying that desire for people to be involved and do the baby family thing, because it's that people like, so the stats came out and basically showed that a lot of people in this generation won't do as well financially as their parents, and that being kind of the notion of the American dream is, you do better than your parents, but people have to realize after a while you keep climbing to the top of the mountain, and then all of a sudden you're on the top of the mountain. It's like, well, how can you do better than the people who did the best ever? Why do you really need to? to a certain degree. And that was what the news was about, that American dream being dead. And that's why the idea of making America great again, right? So again, this whole shattered dream, looking for something, finding to it, but it not actually being there and being a mirage, shooting for a mirage and spending so much time and energy to fight towards a mirage is a recipe for disaster, as they say in some country that exists where people talk like that. Have kids. Don't give in to idiocracy. By the way, did you see the global warming news? We're totally fucked. You have to, I think, just kind of go with it because, you know, even as the world changes, there will still be people here. And as it goes underwater, people will still want to surf. And think of all the fresh water we'll have. Yeah, just keep reading those news things. I can't believe we haven't seen the tweet yet. The oh my god, it's so cold. Global warming is fake tweet. It's coming. I know it's coming. I know it. The people at the EPA are downloading and hiding raw data because they remember what happened under George W. Bush. And George W. Bush fucked up so many careers in environmental science. Talked about this a little bit before, but in that kind of the bureaucracy that exists in this country, and again, a lot of these departments that these complete people who don't want those departments to exist, but these departments are very large. They're like large companies, and a lot of people work there and do things. They're career scientists, like a part of this. So as those careers get ended, as these people who come into control of this, like say, oh, we don't believe in that, or we need to focus on, as an environmental agency, how can we help our oil and gas industry extract more stuff and ship it safely? And that becomes the focus of our EPA and our Department of State and our executive branch. So, you know, the destruction here is huge. This is real, and this stuff it happens. I mean, the careers as part of that bureaucracy, but again, that bureaucracy will resist, and you already see that in like the Office of Governmental Ethics and a few other things, and all these thousands and thousands of people who work in the swamp that's being drained because that worked well and played. Oh, that played so good with you. People drained the swamp. You loved it. You can't. I don't know if you could make this up if you tried to a certain degree. I certainly couldn't make it up. Although there's been some good fantasy stuff about it, so maybe some people have made things up like this that are this ridiculous. Apparently, that Man in High Castle. Has anybody watched that one? I don't know. Yeah, read the plot on that. Not melodramatic at all. Speaking of which, Jeff Sessions, and this is moving into, there will be a lot of discussions next year about especially early next year, about the confirmation fights and the cabinet that goes in to implement this and tries to make America great again. Jeff Sessions is one of those. The Man in High Castle book? Of course it's a book. They're all good books. That might be worth doing for me. I need some good books to read. I know I say that, and people will throw some books at me. That'd be great. Actually, if you see this and have a good book for me to read, give it to me, because those are fun. But Jeff Sessions used to be a civil rights hero. I don't know if you heard about this. Along with the other thing, and this is actually literally what they're trying to do to push him in, which is just hilarious. But that's the sell on Sessions. So we got that going on. We got the drone thing. We covered all that. The Sessions Gaslight. I think you should still have children. And we're trying to wrap things up for those who are just joining us a little bit late. I don't know if you guys want to talk about anything. Michelle, you got to be on time, man. I got a few more minutes till Cowboys play. So, all right, let's get into it. 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 Let You just got to talk about stuff. We did the South China Sea thing. We'll see where that's going to go, and I'll keep updating you guys on that story too. It's going to be interesting to see what they try and do. Some people try and blame Obama for it, which is just silly. We'll probably have a couple weirder shows coming up in the next few weeks as I talk a little bit more about my quantum philosophy stuff. I have a literal translation of the concept of a media bubble and some of the notion of a knowable reality that ties into this, and a way to communicate ideas and concepts across language and things like that. Now there's emojis attacking me! This is part of the whole quantum philosophy, part of my book stuff, and I'm going to actually do this a little bit more. The show basically is about done tonight, guys, so we're going to kind of wrap up. I hope that was fun. A little bit quieter and more relaxed this evening. But we will be doing a couple more focused shows on that, and then I'm going to talk about some other weird things. So those are always fun, isn't that? Just such a good, random, weird tease for stuff. See that movie, Arrival. And also Rogue One. Did you guys see it? I liked it. I thought it was good. I'm not going to talk about it too much more. There was a couple of scenes that were good. One that I went like this. So that's as much spoiler as you get for your Rogue One moment. That's all you get. And that's it. I would like to thank everybody who came and wandered by tonight to check stuff out. I'm going to keep doing the shows and talking about things again. It'd be a good way to tie things up for the week and then move along to other stuff and then put it on the website and talk about it there. And again, if anybody ever wants to talk about stuff, this is always good stuff. Good place to do it. And I hope everyone has a wonderful week this week. I'm going to go snowboarding and have a nice little vacation with the family. So we'll still be back. We'll see how that works for the rest of it. But I think it's about time for the Cowboys to go play some football. And so I'd like to thank everybody for watching tonight. And I hope this week finds you well. Good evening. Take care.